Hi, ladies. Welcome back. Let me share something with you. Maybe, probably, you've experienced this in your own life. Okay. How our kids have this inner knowing and they can sense, oh, is there something's wrong. So, my daughter asked me the other night, Mom, are you mad at me? Or is something wrong? And I said, No, of course not. There's nothing wrong, sweetheart. I'm fine. But the truth was, I wasn't fine. I had a really tough day. I had a really rough day. I was frustrated. I was a little tired. I had a headache. I was a little behind on work. And she felt it. I didn't have to say anything, right? So she looked at me and said, You sound mad. You look upset. So that's when it kind of hit me that she didn't just notice it, but she felt it. And she was asking me because she wanted that clarity. So today we're talking about parenting without secrets. This wasn't a secret, but it's about transparency. Okay, so that's what Stephen Covey talks about in his book. We're going through The Speed of Trust. So definitely check out the book. I'm going to leave the link below. Behavior number 3, creating transparency with your kids, your family, and that completely changes the game, building trust and connection in your family. Okay, so it's about being clear and truthful so your family members or the people around you, they don't have to guess what is really true. So let's talk about what actually how does this actually look like in parenting? So I want to give you like real examples of what you can do to create that transparency, what transparency is, what I mean by that, and how that changes the game for your family. Okay, so why does transparency matter? Okay, you see, trust in families grows the same way it does anywhere else, right? When what we say matches what we do, okay, it has to be parallel. But a lot of times, accidentally we blur things or we kind of hide things. We say everything is fine when it's not. Or they ask us a question and we kind of brush it off and say it's not important, or I'll think about it and I'll give you an answer later, when we actually mean to say is absolutely no. Okay, so kids are emotional detectives. They pick up on tone, body language, even the silence between our words. So when we aren't clear or truthful, it creates confusion, and slowly that builds that mistrust between them and us. Okay, especially as they get older, but we want to teach this to them when they're young, right? So transparency isn't dumping all like the adult stuff on our kids or sharing our really deep emotional emotions with our kids. And if we're having a fight with our partner and we're discussing these things, we don't want to do that to our kids, but just saying that, you know here's what's real. Okay, and here's what you can count on. Okay, so this builds emotional safety, and that's what we're talking about today. So let me go back to that night with my daughter when she was confused and she was like, okay, are you mad at me or are you mad? The next time that happened and she asked me, she's really sensitive, so she notices right away. I decided to give her the answer. I wanted to try a different approach with her. So I told her, you know what? Yes, I am a little upset. Yeah, I had a tough conversation with a client, and that has left me a little uneasy, a little upset. And I haven't eaten well or haven't drank enough water, and I'm a little grumpy today. And it's not because of you. Okay, so that was that clarity that I gave her. So she nodded, she smiled, and she went off doing her coloring. Okay, so there's no drama, no tears. It was just pure understanding and connection. And I think being transparent with them creates that space. So transparency doesn't make you feel weak in front of your kids, it makes you feel real. Okay, it makes you feel raw, real, and it shows them it's okay to have feelings and to talk about them honestly. So they do the same thing with you. So, explaining the why behind your rules. Okay, let's talk about this. Let's talk about creating boundaries, the stuff that causes 80% of more parent teen arguments, okay? Creating the boundary, um, learning to say that no. So imagine your 15-year-old says, he asks, why can't I go to that party? And your response is, just because I said so. Okay, that's all. I said no, and that's it, right? So that feels familiar, right? We don't want to give an explanation. So that might work short term, but it doesn't build trust over the long run. So Stephen Covey talks about creating clarity, okay, and that builds trust immediately. Um, and it also creates cooperation. So instead of just giving them a flat out no without an explanation, you want to explain a little bit. I know that the party sounds fun. Your friends are going, but I don't feel good about. There's going to be no parents there. I'm not comfortable with that, and I want you to be safe. Okay, so as you get older and you keep showing responsibility, we'll stretch the rules. We'll change the rules for you. Is that okay? Deal? So they know that this is the reason that you're saying no. And it creates that transparency between you and the child. Okay. You're not just the rule maker in the house. It's not like dictatorship, right? You're a partner in their growth. You want them to know that you're a partner. Okay. And you've told the truth, explain the why, and open the door for trust. Okay. Um, all right. So another thing is admitting mistakes. You know what really builds credibility with our kids is owning to our own mistakes. I know this may feel a little vulnerable, but it really opens the space for communication. So, a couple of days ago, I snapped at my son. He's now 16 years old, but I just yelled at him for not having his room clean. Okay, I know we all go through this, and this hits home for many of you ladies. So I kind of made it all about me. Okay. I felt disrespected because I told him a couple of times to do it and he didn't do it. So I felt undervalued. And that kind of left me angry. So you know how that goes, right? So later that night, I walked into his room and I said, I kind of overreacted. I understand that you have exams going on right now. Um, and can I help you clean it up or do you need some help? um, and the cleanliness will help you think better and study better. So he looked up and he was surprised. Then he smiled and says, okay, mom, I get it. I needed to get to the cleaning part and I was going to over the weekend when I had some time. So when we model that accountability, we're teaching it. Okay, so when I went in and I kind of apologized for blowing up at him, it was okay. And he felt guilty about not having the room clean as well, right? So kids don't expect perfect parents. They expect honest ones, truthful ones. Okay, they don't like it when you hide the truth from them. So transparency is about showing people the real you, especially your loved ones. Okay, not the polished version. That makes that's what makes them trust you more. Now let's talk about being real during hard times, being transparent during the hard times. So, if you ever try to protect your kids by keeping family secrets, family stress, kind of away from them, you don't want them to get involved, you don't want them to stress out. But that kind of backfires because they feel left out or they don't feel like they're part of the family. So, when something big happens, like a medical emergency or moving to a new place or losing a job or something like that, and you stay silent and you don't share this with your kids, kids feel that tension in the air. Okay. And they don't understand it. Even when they're really young, 5, 6 year olds, explain it to them on their level. I don't want you to go in too depth, but their minds fill in the blank. Okay, and they start assuming stuff, and they feel that energy of disconnect, and usually fear. Okay, so you can talk to them and just say things are a little different right now, a little tough right now, because we are not sure of the results. Okay. But we're figuring it out. There's nothing that you need to worry about. We're handling it. Inshallah, it will be better. Um, do you want to talk about how you're feeling about this situation? Okay. So, someone has some kind of illness in the family or needs to go for an operation, whatever it is, explain or connect with them on their level so they know what's happening. Okay. And you'll be surprised how emotionally intelligent they are. So, that transparency with reassurance. Okay. You've named what's real, but anchored it in safely. Okay, so that's how kids stay grounded when life really gets shaky. Okay, so let's wrap this up. Transparency in parenting looks like this. Okay, tell your kids the truth, just enough for their age. You don't want to go into that, but tell them the truth. Okay, if you're going to go to the doctor and they're going to get an injection, let them know this is going to happen and they'll feel this so they're prepared mentally and you don't surprise them. Okay, um, explain your whys. We talked about the party and explaining why you said no to a particular thing. Own your own emotions. Admit your own mistakes. This is huge. Let them see you're human. You're not perfect. We're not perfect, right? Just consistent. So they're not unsure where you're coming from. So, this idea of creating transparency of Stephen Covey is very simple but so powerful. So when we create transparency, we eliminate the guesswork. We eliminate the guesswork, and our kids stop wondering what's really going on. Okay. What mom says is different, what she does is different. You don't want that. So they know what's going on. They trust you, and quietly, daily, bit by bit, that connection builds stronger and stronger. So here's my challenge for you this week. The next time you catch yourself saying, it's fine, just pause and ask, what's the truth I could share with my son or share with my daughter today? Okay, it doesn't have to be in depth and you don't want to give them a whole like therapy session, but just the truth. Just the truth. Okay. Whether it's sharing your feelings, explaining a rule, or saying sorry, try one small act of transparency with your kids and watch how it softens the tone in your home. If you enjoyed this video, and you'd like more, you'd like to see more, don't forget to hit the subscribe button and tell me in the comments where you are tuning in from. Just say the place where you're from, okay? I'd love to hear from you guys. Tell me what's one area you want to be more transparent about with your family, and if you've ever experienced this. Because when our kids can trust what we say, they learn to be truthful with us too. And that's how you build a home full of real connection. It's about open communication. If you'd like to go deeper, I've got a reset system. If you're looking for more connection, the real scripts, the right strategies to, stop the overwhelm, stop the yelling and screaming in the house, and if you're looking for that calm, that joy, and that peace again in your family, I'm going to leave the link. If you're ready for that, check that out. Inshallah, I'll see you in the next one. Assalamu alaikum.